Hi, Alex here from Rebeloper.com, and I am so happy to announce that in this video series we are going to talk about Firebase Authentication. That is, we are going to log in, sign up, reset our passwords, log in with Facebook, Twitter, and so on. So without further ado, let's get started. So we are going to talk about how to implement Firebase authentication and all of this in Swift with the latest version of Swift, of course. So let me just show you what we are going to build out today, because today we are going to just build out some user interface, and of course we are going to add Firebase into our project. And later on in the series we are going to talk about each and every authentication type. And those authentication types are email and password, phone, Google, Facebook, Twitter, GitHub, and anonymous. Of course, you may have seen bits and pieces of these authentications on the net, but now we are going to talk about all of them and all of the use cases. So for that, we need a brand new project. And let me just show you what we are going to build out today. Okay, here is my test Firebase authentication project, and let me just build this in my iPhone 10 simulator here. Let me just resize this just a minute. And as you can see, we have here, well, a tab bar controller inside a navigation controller. And most tutorials don't cover this, they only just cover how to set up a login button and how to call up on it. But in this series we are going to create, well, nearly a production state app with our authentications. And for that we are going to use the most common scene when, let's say, we have an app that has a tab bar controller, and mostly that is it. Of course, we can use a UI view controller, but I kind of figured this is a little bit harder, so I will show you how to do that. So we are going to build out this tab bar controller that has a home and a user profile. Pretty simple. Now, let me just build and run again, but before I do that, let us just comment out this line of code, or rather let me just check that. And now a sign up panel will appear because we are going to implement this sign up panel. And of course, if we will be in later videos signed up, this panel will not appear. Instead, it will be taken to the tab bar controller automatically. Okay, as you can see, it is sign up, and we are just, as you can see in this method, we are going to check user login status. Of course, we are not signed up and at the moment, so we are getting this screen. So let me just comment out this one so I may leave this test project as is. And now let's create all of this from scratch. So we just minimize this and let's go to File, New, and I will just create a new project. Now we will use a single view application because this is the most used case. Of course, you can use games too by following the tutorials and implementing that to your Sprite Kit game or even augmented reality app, as you wish. So this is the basics that you can build upon. So let's click on the next here, and I will just give a name here. Let's say, I hope I spelled that correctly, and I will just double check here. Authentication, yeah, authentication, and I believe I misspelled that. If I could speak in English, authentication, great. And now we will just use a Swift, and the bundle identifier is just great. So Firebase Authentication. Okay, let's click on next. And I will create a GitHub repository, so you may take a look at the code. So go ahead and take a look at my Rebeloper GitHub repository, and you will see this there. So let's create that, and we are done. Next up, we need to create a Firebase app. So next step is to go to Chrome, and let me just go back. Let me just remove this and start off from scratch. So go to firebase.google.com and sign up for Firebase if you haven't already done so, and then go sign in and go to your console. Okay, let's wait for this. And now we are going to create a Firebase app that will link to our project. So now that it has loaded, let's create a new project and select Add Project. Okay, let's name this project, let's say, let's create our project now, and it is creating our project on the Firebase servers. So while we are waiting, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you may be notified when you get new videos of our Firebase episodes. Okay, let's click on continue now, and we will be taken to our Firebase Authentication dashboard. We are going to create, of course, an iOS app, so let's select that. And now we need our iOS bundle ID, and because we have already created our Xcode project, I will just copy this out, and let's go back here and paste it in. Okay, and app nickname and App Store ID is optional, so let us just register our app. We need to take a few steps in order to link our Firebase app that we are just creating now with our project. So now we are going to download our Google Service info.plist file, and let's wait for it to download. And as you can see down here, it says info and it's deferred. I have already downloaded many Google Service info plist files in the past, so this is deferred. What you need to be aware of, that you need to change that deferred, well, you need to delete it basically. So first of all, let's just go ahead and drag and drop it into our project and make sure copy items if needed is checked, create groups is selected, and of course your target is checked. Now let's click on finish here, and finally let us just delete this free. So it should be Google Service info.plist file. If you are doing this for the first time, you will not have this problem at all. Okay, let's go back. Now let's click on continue, and here it says that you need to add Firebase through Cocoapods. So we are going to install Firebase via Cocoapods. If you don't know what Cocoapods is, just type in here Cocoapods, and let me just show you cocoapods.org. You can install Cocoapods onto your computer by opening up your terminal. We are going to open up terminal in just a second and type in sudo gem install Cocoapods, and that is all you need. Once that is installed, then you can add the Firebase SDK through Cocoapods. Of course, Cocoapods is a dependency manager. Go ahead and read all about it if you haven't already done so. Oh, just take a look at my previous videos. I am talking a lot about how to install and use Cocoapods in my videos. Okay, next up, let us just open up terminal. So I hit command space and type in terminal, or just started typing terminal, and hit return to open it. Now we need to navigate to our project's root folder, and that is fairly simple. Open up your Finder, and let me just go here. Here it is, Firebase Authentication. Okay, and inside, let me just make this a little bigger by hitting Command plus, so you may see. I will just type in here cd and a space, and then just drag and drop the root folder of my project. That is it. And of course, now let's go back to the terminal and hit return. Now we are inside our Firebase Authentication folder. Let's just list out our files with ls. There you can see we have one Firebase Authentication folder and our Xcode project. Good. Now we need to create a pod file because we are going to add our pods into our pod file. So type in pod init. Okay, let's hit return again. And as you can see, it was just with the blink of an eye, a pod file has been created. Now we need to open this up via our Xcode application, and we need to configure this. And now we are going to delete this hashtag or pound, whatever you want to call it, and make the platform iOS 11. Okay, now we need to add here our pods, and we need 3 pods that I will copy from my test project. Let me just go to my pod file here, and those 3 are Firebase/auth, Firebase/database, and Firebase/storage, because we are going to not just log into Firebase, we are going to save our user credentials, well, not the password, but our username, the name, and maybe the password to our database. And of course, we are going to store our image of our, let's say, our user into Firebase storage. So you get nearly the whole package in this series. So stay tuned. Okay. For now, let us just copy these pods, and LBTA components, I have a separate playlist on LBTA components. Well, it is a very handful helper that will guide, well, it will help me lay out the views inside our controller. So let me just copy and paste this to while we are here. Okay, let's minimize this, and now let's paste it all in here, and maybe with a few tabs make it more readable. Okay, file, save, and let's close this. Good stuff. Now next is to install our pods. So go back to your terminal and type in pod install. Okay, hit return, and it will be downloading the dependencies and installing them. This might take a few seconds to a few minutes depending on your internet access. So let's just wait for that, and while you are there, of course, just hit the subscribe button, and I am finished, and that is all you need to do in terminal. Now here you can see that please close any current Xcode sessions and use the Firebase Authentication Xcode workspace for this project from now on. And that is the key element when you are using Cocoapods. You're not allowed to use the Xcode project, you need to use the Xcode workspace. So I will just close this now, and as you can see, a new file, well, more files have been created, but this is how I will open up our our project from now on. So I'll just double click on that, and you can see that I have here a Firebase Authentication, and here I have my pods, and you can take a look at the pod file and maybe add the pods that have been downloaded and added to your project. Now, and here is our Firebase, well, the basic project that we have created earlier. So that is all you need to do to add Firebase via Cocoapods to your application. Now in the next video we are going to build out the user interface that you just saw at the beginning of our video. Okay, hope you enjoyed this one. And if you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and of course subscribe to our channel, and go ahead and hit that notification bell so you may get notifications when new episodes are released daily on our channel. So I will see you in the next one.